In this video, I speak to John Howard and he's going to drop some nuggets on property auctions. This video is brought to you in part by Property Summits. The first property event of its kind, Property Summits is an all-day event which brings together some of the most respected and experienced names in the property industry. To download a brochure and to find out when the next event will be held, please click the link in the description below. Hi, I'm Andy from Monoperty.com, and on this channel I share my experience as a property investor and landlord, and also interview other investors so we can learn from their advice too. So if you're new here, consider subscribing for more videos like this. So John, I'd like to talk to you about auctions.
Yes.
It's something that I haven't covered in depth on my channel yet. Someone recently left a comment asking, lots of properties are offered on Rightmove, but in an auction, how can you buy a house from an auction, as it's big competition with other property icons? Please, if you can speak about this issue, thank you. Now,
yes.
My experience of auctions, I could put into one paragraph, and that is that I went to several as an observer.
Yes, good thing to do to start with, by the way. Do a few dry runs, so that's very good. Good,
Okay,
good so far, Andy. Good so far.
Good start. And then I did some research on a property that I wanted to buy.
Good.
I attended the auction and was outbid.
Yes. That happens to me every time nearly as well, so don't feel bad about it, Andy.
Right, so have you got any tips?
Yes. Well, I've got a book coming out, of course, which we're full of tips, Andy, so that's the first thing. I mean, I've been buying at auction for 35 years. I bought Auction House UK with my business partners in 2009. We grew it from 9 franchises to 42, and I sold my shares last year. So I'm pretty well qualified to talk about auctions. So the thing about auctions is this: in every auction there is a bargain. You've just got to know which one it is. And there's a number of tricks and ideas and ways of doing that I can share, which I share in my book, to be fair, but I can also, of course, share verbally now some of them with you. The one thing I always do, if I'm looking at a property in auction, always go to the open day. Keep your mouth shut. Don't go telling everyone what you're going to be buying, what you're going to do. Have a look around. Ask the auctioneer as many questions as you want. But remember, the auctioneer is working for the vendor. The auctioneer is not working for you.
Yeah.
Once everyone's left, I then go to the next door neighbour. The next door neighbour will tell me everything I need to know about that property. They'll let you know how long it's been on the open market with an estate agent, why it's fallen through, who lived there, how desperate they are to sell. So knowledge is power. So always go to the next door neighbour.
Right, good tip, yeah. I remember when I looked around, I took a notepad with me and I was making lots of notes, taking lots of pictures on my phone of any issues the property had.
Yes.
I didn't even think about knocking on the neighbour's door. And it sounds so obvious now that you've said that.
It's simple. I mean, what I would say is every property in an auction has probably got a story to it as to why it's in there. You need to know what that story is. Yeah. So really important. And if there's a problem with the property that you can't solve, for instance, if the next door neighbour's a hoarder and has got cars parked outside on on bricks and on wheels, or whatever wheels on bricks and so on, and you can't get them to change their mentality, then don't buy the property, because you'll really struggle to resell it while that is the case. If you're looking to rent it on the long term, even if you're going to rent it, who wants to rent next door to a difficult problem you cannot solve? If it's a problem you can solve, fantastic. If you can't, don't buy it. Don't buy it. Look at another one. You're walking into that auction room with no problems. Don't walk out with a problem you cannot solve.
Have you got any advice because you can't control how many people see that property.
No.
Is there a way of telling which property is likely to not attract as much attention as others that could be that elusive bargain that you mentioned?
Yes.
Is that?
Well, first of all, don't bother looking at the first 3 lots in any auction, because every auctioneer wants to get off to a good start. So the first 3 lots will be, the reserve will be spot on, and they know they'll sell because they want to get the auction off to a good start. So first 3 lots, if you go to an auction and the first lot or 2 don't sell, it's going to be a bad day and you might get a bargain.
Right.
All right?
Okay.
That's the first thing. So there's a number of things you can do. The legal packs. Ask the auctioneer how many legal packs have been downloaded on any particular property. If there's been 50 legal packs downloaded, your heart should sink a bit.
Right.
If there's been only 2 downloads, then you should perk up a bit and think that might be the one to have a go at. Although I have not bid on properties that's had 50 legal packs and found out it went very cheaply. And alternatively, I've gone with my money to bid on a property it's only had 2 legal packs downloaded, and it went for too much. So it's not an exact science.
No.
But it gives you an idea. The other thing a lot of people do is don't buy at auction at all. Now that might sound crackers to you, Andy. You're going along to an auction, you're never going to buy.
Yeah.
What you are going to do is wait to the end, see what hasn't sold, and then look to buy those.
Right.
Because
I've heard people do that, although I've not done it myself. So is that something you've done yourself?
Yes,
or you've
very much so. And the whole point of that is, remember, these properties have probably been on the open market potentially for a year and not sold because they've failed on valuation or survey or something. They've gone into an auction. The vendors have had high hopes it'll sell. It hasn't sold. They're downcast. What do they do with it next? They reduce the reserve for the next auction. That's all they can do.
Yeah.
They can't put it back on the open market. It's a waste of time. All they can do is take less. And the other thing you've got to remember is, just because the auctioneer says the last bid was, say, 200,000, 199,000, say, and the reserve was 200,000. Really? Do we honestly believe the last bid was 199,000? Yeah. No, we don't. Bid on 175, 160 and see what happens.
Right.
You never bid more after the auction, ever.
Brilliant. Any tips in the way you give your bids in the room? Is there?
Yes.
Is there a good? Is there?
Yeah.
Is there?
Yeah. Okay.
I was just.
So the first thing to do, you want to stand on the side of the room.
Right.
On the side. Do not sit down. Only amateurs sit down.
Right. I was sat
on the seats. Yeah. Right. With all due respect, Andy, you shouldn't have been.
Yeah,
so
right.
always stand up, halfway along the room, so you can see on an angle, so you can see the people bidding at the back and bidding at the front. So you can see everyone bidding. That's the first thing you should do, because there may not be any bids on the property that you can see.
Does the auctioneer use the clock at all? I've heard this before. They'll use the back wall.
Well, I'm not saying they should do, but I've known on occasions on different auctions perhaps that the curtains have been bidding or the ceiling's been bidding so who knows what goes on.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, a good auctioneer can mask a lot of that.
Right.
A good auctioneer, and of course he is working for the vendor, he's looking to get a price the vendor will accept.
Yeah.
So it's up to you to recognise those signs. And one quick tip as well is that when the auctioneer says we're in the room to sell, when you hear those words, that means it's reached its reserve, and if you make a bid at that point, the hammer will come down and it will be your property.
Right.
So you've got to listen for those words. Right. All good auctioneers will tell you when it's reached the reserve price.
Right. And just to confirm, when that hammer falls, that is exchange of contracts.
It's fantastic. If
you've got to come up with a 10% deposit on the day, and you've got to complete within 28 days.
Never ever go to an auction without the funds to buy it.
Yeah.
It's like Russian roulette. Do not do it at any cost. Stressful. If you're struggling because you don't think you complete within a month, before the auction starts, talk to the auctioneer and get permission to have a 6-week completion. They've only got to ask the vendor. The vendor might say, yeah, I'll give them 6 weeks if they're the highest bid. Right. So there's things you can do. Okay. You don't have to just be rigid and,
But that can only be done before the auction starts?
Yeah, before the auction starts. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And I would do it a few days before the auction.
Yeah. Right. Thank you very much. If you found this video useful, please like and share, and definitely subscribe so you won't miss any of my future videos, which will all be about helping you start or improve your property business. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.